Hello, everyone. Welcome to Celsius 233, your go-to place for fiction book summaries. Today, we will enter the world crafted in The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde is a novel that delves into themes of aestheticism, moral corruption, and the quest for eternal youth. First published in 1891, the story is set in Victorian England and explores the life of Dorian Gray, a young man of extraordinary beauty who becomes the subject of a painting by artist Basil Hallward. Under the influence of Lord Henry Wotton, Dorian wishes to remain young and beautiful forever, a wish that leads to his eventual downfall as he engages in a hedonistic and morally bankrupt lifestyle. Plot summary. In the heart of London, amidst the scent of roses and the shimmering light of a summer's day, Basil Hallward, a gifted artist, toiled over a portrait. His subject, Dorian Gray, was a young man of extraordinary beauty, whose innocence and charm captivated all who met him. Basil saw in Dorian the muse he had long searched for, a figure that inspired him to create his finest work. But Basil's admiration for Dorian went deeper than artistic inspiration. He believed Dorian's beauty held a special purity, something that elevated his art beyond mere craftsmanship. Lord Henry Wotton, a close friend of Basil, was intrigued by this mysterious subject, and upon meeting Dorian, felt an immediate pull. Lord Henry, with his cynical and seductive philosophy of life, quickly set about influencing Dorian. He extolled the virtues of indulgence, pleasure, and the pursuit of beauty above all else. He told Dorian that youth was the only thing worth having, for it was fleeting, and once lost, it could never be regained. This thought deeply unsettled Dorian. Standing before the finished portrait, he was struck by its flawless reflection of his own beauty and youth. A desperate longing stirred within him, and in a moment of emotional intensity, he wished that he could remain as young as the portrait, while it bore the marks of time and life instead. From that day forward, Dorian embraced the hedonistic life that Lord Henry had described. He indulged in every pleasure and vice that came his way, without regard for consequence. Meanwhile, Basil remained oblivious to the growing changes in Dorian's character, seeing him as the same charming young man he had first painted. But Dorian's secret lay hidden in his attic, where the portrait had begun to change. The youthful beauty of the painting started to deteriorate, showing signs of the moral corruption that Dorian had set in motion. Each sin, every act of cruelty, was etched into the canvas, leaving Dorian's outward appearance untouched while the portrait reflected the monstrous truth of his soul. Dorian's descent into darkness deepened when he met Sybil Vane, a beautiful young actress. For a brief time, he was enchanted by her talent and beauty. To him, Sybil embodied the ideal of art. She was a living masterpiece, and he decided that he loved her. But when Sybil, overwhelmed by her love for Dorian, faltered in her craft and gave a poor performance, Dorian's affection for her crumbled. He cruelly ended their engagement, dismissing her as nothing more than a disappointment. Heartbroken, Sybil took her own life, a tragedy that did not seem to weigh heavily on Dorian's conscience. Instead, he saw her death as a mere inconvenience in his pursuit of pleasure. When he glanced at his portrait afterward, he noticed a faint sneer had formed on the painted lips. It was the first sign that his wish had been granted. As the years passed, Dorian's reputation became shrouded in whispers of scandal. While he remained outwardly youthful and handsome, those around him aged, and many who had once admired him now avoided him. Yet, his charm never fully waned, and his influence continued to corrupt those who fell into his orbit. Lord Henry, though fascinated by Dorian's life, remained detached, amused by the chaos he had sown, but never suspecting the full extent of Dorian's moral decay. Basil, however, grew increasingly concerned. He could not understand how Dorian had changed so drastically. One fateful evening, Basil confronted Dorian, urging him to reform. But Dorian, enraged by the confrontation and terrified that Basil might uncover the truth of the portrait, decided to show him the painting. In the secrecy of his attic, Dorian unveiled the grotesque, deformed image that had once been a reflection of his beauty. The sight horrified Basil. He could not fathom how such corruption could exist in the soul of someone he had loved and admired. In a moment of blind panic and rage, Dorian murdered Basil, silencing the only man who truly cared for him. With Basil's body hidden, Dorian continued his reckless existence, though guilt and fear began to gnaw at his conscience. In search of solace, Dorian turned to opium and other vices, trying to numb the growing dread within him. But the portrait loomed large in his mind, a constant reminder of his corruption. His charm no longer brought him peace, and even Lord Henry's philosophies felt hollow. The weight of his sins grew unbearable, especially after an encounter with James Vane, Sybil's vengeful brother. James had long sought revenge for his sister's death, and after recognizing Dorian's unchanged face, he pursued him relentlessly. Dorian narrowly escaped James' wrath when fate intervened, and James was killed in a hunting accident. Despite the reprieve, Dorian's fear of retribution haunted him. Desperate to escape the torment of his past, he decided to destroy the portrait, believing that by doing so, he could free himself from its curse. In a final act of despair, Dorian seized the same knife he had used to kill Basil and slashed the painting. But in doing so, he brought about his own destruction. Servants, hearing a cry of anguish from the attic, rushed to the scene. There, they found a disfigured, wrinkled man lying dead on the floor, the knife plunged into his chest. The portrait, restored to its original beauty, hung above him, ageless and untouched, as Dorian's true form lay exposed in death. Hope you had fun. There's more where that came from. Explore other books by Oscar Wilde. Find them below or search Celsius 233. Remember, while our summaries capture the essence, they can never replace the full experience of reading the book. If this summary intrigued you, consider diving into the complete story, buy the book, and immerse yourself in Oscar Wilde's original work. Bye-bye, take care, have fun.